Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you're watching, please say hi. Hi, Robert. How are you? We know that Robert is watching. Okay. Ready? If anyone's watching, please say hi so I know that we're on and that we're going well. Okay. How is everyone doing here? Baruch Hashem. If Marsha says Baruch Hashem, that's okay. Ready? I see Steve is watching. Steve, where are you, Steve? Steve, do you have a dad joke? Steve is watching a little dad joke. So we start. This is off the record. So why did this get on there, Steve? Why? We're starting. Okay, we'll just go to the class. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Laila Tov. My voice is gone. I'm like exhausted. I'm like in a daze. But we'll have a beautiful class, God willing. We'll pull through. The energy of all of you here will keep me going. B'ezrat Hashem, and I'm sure also everyone watching online will virtually energize me. So, tonight's learning is in the memory of Yitzchak Tzvi ben Yosef. His neshama should have an elevation. We're going to talk tonight, get into the Pesach spirit, and understand me in the story of Pesach primarily, and what does it mean to be free. Pesach is man cherutenu, the time of our freedom, our liberation, our emancipation. And so I want to talk about that theme, but first a great Pesach joke about this guy. He's married already 50 years. He calls up his daughter, Deborah, in Los Angeles. He says, Deborah, I don't know how to say this to you, but Mom and I have decided we're getting divorced. We're getting divorced. She almost drops the phone in complete shock. She says, what? She says, yeah, it's just been too many years of nothing but complaining and aggravation and stress and problems. And now you guys are married. We're done. You can call your brother. There's nothing to talk about. We're getting divorced after the holidays. This is right before Passover. We're getting divorced. So you crazy? She says, don't do anything. I'm calling Steve. I'm calling my brother right now. Don't do anything. Oh, whatever. I just picked Steve who was watching. So hello, everyone that's watching. Steve, I just picked you because he's not here. Hello, Kim. Hello, Michael. Hello, everyone else. And so she calls her brother. She says, it's crazy. Mom and Dad want to get divorced. How could this be? What a shock. I thought they were so happily married. This is crazy. She calls and he says, we got to do something. She, on conference call, she calls back her father. She says, Dad, listen, next week is Passover. Don't you do anything. Me and Steve are flying into Florida to be with you for Passover. We'll be there. We'll talk. We'll talk about this. We'll figure something out. Do not do anything until we get there next week. Okay, fine. He hangs up the phone. He turns to his wife with a big smile and says, honey, I have good news. Both of our kids are coming for Passover, and they're paying for their own tickets. Okay, so we are going to soon be celebrating the most, I shouldn't say the most important, every Jewish holiday is the most important, right? Yes. Before any holiday, they say a story, whatever, they say a story about, it just kept up in my head, about Rabbi Ben Mendel Futterfass, and they asked him, what's the most important time to go to the Rebbe, to go to 770? He said, depends what time of the year you ask me, right? Whenever you ask, that's the most important time to go to see the Rebbe. So before every holiday, this is going to be the most important holiday, but Pesach, Passover, is the holiday of the birth of the Jewish people. It is a holiday that makes us into the people that we are. It is obviously the beginning of our history. All other holidays really come from Passover. This is the beginning of our identity, of our story. Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. If not for Passover, there wouldn't be Shavuos, there wouldn't be Rosh Hashanah, there wouldn't be Yom Kippur, there wouldn't be anything. Our existence is only because of what's over here. Our existence There you go. Our existence is only because of Passover. So we need to understand the energy of Passover. There's different names in the Torah for Passover. And originally I was thinking to go through the three different names and the three different dimensions, but I want to really only focus on one. We'll take one idea, which is from the perspective of Hasidus, the most important idea. Again, I don't have the authority to decide what is the most important, but in my non-humble opinion, and the little that I've learned in my life, from a Hasidic perspective, if you want to understand Pesach, the most important thing to understand about Pesach is the idea of freedom. Now I realize I forgot to put onto the source sheet that I made in my tiredness, but I meant to put on the famous statement that it says, B'chol dar v'dar. In every generation, Chayev Adam Liras as Atzmei Ki'ilu Hu Yatsa Mitzrayim, a person is obligated to see himself as if he has left Egypt. And you should know that when the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad Hasidus, who wrote the Tanya, when he quotes this statement, he actually adds three words. He says, B'chol dar v'dar, u'v'chol yom v'yom. In every generation, it's not in the sheet, but it's in my brain, and now it'll be in your brain. In every generation and in every day, every single day, a person needs to feel himself as if he himself is experiencing his own personal exodus and liberation from Egypt. And
you say it every day.
We say it every day. We have a mitzvah to remember the exodus from Egypt every single day. That is correct.
It's like sometimes I think about that and like blows my mind that every single day, multiple times a day, you're supposed to think about it.
Marcia is 100% correct. Every single day we have an obligation to remember the Exodus, to talk about the Exodus, not only by the days, even by the nights. Talk about the Haggadah. And there's a whole other idea that represents the darkness of exile, meaning we don't have to only remember the Exodus from Egypt in the day when things are good, when life is good for us, when the sun is shining and the Jews are living happily and safely and securely in Israel and we have a temple. But even at night, even when it's dark outside, even when anti-Semitism is raging, we need to remember the Exodus then too. It's also a very important idea. So what I want to discuss is how do we understand what does it mean to be free? And there can't be a more me in the holiday than understanding this idea of freedom. So let's begin with the very word that I mentioned before. What is the holiday called? And if you open up the prayer book, this is not the words in the Torah, but if you open up the prayer book and you start to read the prayers on the holiday of Passover, how do the rabbis of the great men of the great assembly, the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah, how do they coin and so to say, market or brand? That's what I'm looking for. How do the rabbis brand the holiday of Passover? Zman Cherutenu, which means the time of our liberation, the time of our exodus. Right? Correct? Now, Sarah is here. She's going to tell you this is true. That in Israel, or maybe it was a Talmud, but I think so. When we talk about, let's say, vacation, talk about the summer when school is closed, what do they call it? Zman HaChofesh. Chofesh, right? So in Hebrew, if you want to say freedom, if you want to say exodus or liberation, the word normally used is chofesh. That's the proper Hebrew word that's typically used. And Sarah is validating it. If you're watching online, if you're an Israeli who are watching, Zman HaChofesh is a time of freedom, a time of rest. And there's actually in the Torah we find also the word chofesh or chafshi in the concept of freedom. For example, when we talk about slaves going free in the Bible, right, that they work, they go out lachafshi, to freedom. So even in the Bible, we see the word, when we're talking about slaves leaving their slavery, we don't use the word cherut, which is freedom, we use the word chafshi. So we need to understand why when the rabbis chose to brand and to give a proper name to the holiday of Passover, to tell us how we should visualize and understand the Zman, the time, the season which we're now in, we need to understand what is the difference between Cherut and Chofesh, or between freedom and vacation, let's say. I want to give English words, right? Is that a good translation? What is the difference between vacation and freedom? Good question. Any thoughts? What's the difference between freedom and vacation? So vacation means I have no obligations. I don't got to get up for work at 8 o'clock in the morning or at 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever time I got to get up. I don't have to, answer the phone if I don't want to. Rabbis don't really get them. Something like, I'm not in the mood. Like, I don't have to answer the phone today. That's chofesh. That's free. That's vacation. When you have the ability to say, I don't have to go to work. I don't have to report to duty. I don't have to answer to somebody else. For my kids, they don't have to go to school. That's the greatest celebration. Why? Because I have vacation from having to sit in class and listen to the teacher and et cetera. You all understand. If you have kids and we're in school, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yom Chavshi, it's a free day, exactly. Yom Chavshi means it's a day off. Day off. A day off means I have no obligations. I have no requirements. I have no contract. I have no commitments. I'm free to do as I wish. In Judaism, in Torah, we talk about the liberation and the exodus of the Jews from Egypt. In no way do we mean that they were free to have no obligation. We don't mean that they were, off the hook. In fact, the word cherut, freedom, is connected to the word charut, which means to be engraved. And there is an amazing statement by Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi in the 6th chapter of Ethics of Our Fathers. So this is on your source sheet. So I'm sorry, I just missed that. I'm going to share it if you're watching on my personal page. I'm going to share the screen. But if not, if you open up Ethics of Our Fathers, chapter 6, Mishnah 2. It's a long Mishnah. I'm just going to the second half. It's a quote from Yeshua ben Levi. What does he say? He's describing the tablets that Hashem gave to Moshe. And it says in the verse, "V'haluchot ma'aseh Elohim hema." The tablets are the work of God, and the michtav, the writing, is the writing of God. If you read Hebrew, read the top line, charut al haluchot. You see those words I just the top line? Charut al haluchot, which in English means engraved on the tablets. Says Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, al tikre charut ella cherut. Don't read it charut, which means engraved, but rather read it cherut, which means liberty. Why? For there is no free individual except for he who occupies himself with the study of Torah. And whoever occupies himself with the study of Torah is elevated, as it is stated, and from the gift to Nachaliel, from Nachaliel, Bamo to the heights. Meaning, the gift is a gift of Torah. That when you learn the gift of Torah, that takes you, Bamo takes you to the highest heights. So learning Torah elevates you. But the point is, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi is saying that the word cherut, freedom, is connected to the tablets, which were charut, engraved. The words were engraved on the stone. Which takes us, my friends, to an absolutely amazing and very non-American understanding of freedom. What is the definition of freedom? Not that I'm off, but that I'm free to be engraved. I'm engraved. I'm actually, so to say, actually very, very much confined and controlled and limited in who I can be and what I can do, etc. When you're engraved in something, is that how you would typically and normally define freedom? Or the typical understanding of freedom is the exact antithesis of how we understand being engraved. When you engrave a letter, what is that letter? Whatever you engrave, it can never change. It can never say, today I'm not going to be, the letter B. You engrave a B, let a second, right? You engrave it, and that's what it is. Forever and ever, it's going to remain a B. Freedom is I can do whatever I want, no obligations, no limits. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of the Torah and keeping the mitzvot. People think that that's so not freedom.
Oh, so Marsha, who's a genius, is still will not be allowed in my classes, but that's exactly what I'm about to say. I've said this before, by the way, because this is one of the most fundamental ideas in Chassidus.
I realize.
Yes. So as Marsha is correctly saying, first of all, let's say hello to everyone that's watching from all over the world, from Texas and everywhere. How are you? Shalom, shalom. So what is the deal? People look at religious Jews and they think they're the most oppressed, enslaved, Miserable people. And they think of a religious woman as like chained down in the kitchen with the babies running around their feet. That's the stereotypical, stereotype of the anti-Semitic view of what's a religious woman. Woman with like 10 kids, tied to her apron, locked in the kitchen. Yeah? That's what they'll tell you. And the feminist rights movement will tell you this is what the religious people do to their wives. They chain them in the kitchen with all the babies. And yet, from a Jewish perspective, God is saying that the ultimate freedom doesn't come from having nothing to do. Having nothing to do is an emptiness. That's not freedom. It's empty. Freedom is the ability to be who you are really meant to be. Freedom is the ability to really maximize your potential. It's true very often we work for someone else. We have obligations. We have commitments. We have a job. We have to go to the work. We have to go to the doctor. And so the things that take us away, there are certain obligations that take us away from being who we are really meant to be and who we could be. But true freedom means I have no distractions, no obligations taking me away from my ultimate freedom. So I'll give you an example. Imagine a fish would say, I want to be free to tour the world. I want to go to Paris.
Could you say that again?
Imagine a fish.
No, the freedom part, no distractions.
In life, sometimes we have obligations that stop us or prevent us from being able to be who we really are meant to be. Freedom is the removal of any distractions or obligations that stop us from revealing our potential and being the people that we are meant to be and we are gifted to be and have the potential to be. But we can only do that in the right structure. So imagine a fish would say, I want to go tour Paris. I want to go to Israel. I want to go, where's something exciting to go? I don't know. I want to go to Crown Heights for Shabbos. I want to go to Shabbat in the Heights, yeah? Yeah. So he says, I want to go to spend Shabbat in the Heights in Crown Heights. Sounds cool. I hear there's going to be filter fish there. Right? So he wants to go to Crown Heights for Shabbat. That sounds wonderful. Want to go on a tour and see the world. But guess what? The moment the fish goes out of the water, it loses its ability to be who it is. It's not a fish anymore. I mean, if the fish goes to Crown Heights, it's going in a nice platter of sushi, That's how it's going. It's going to Crown Heights on a sushi platter. Now, sushi platters are very good. Jews appreciate the value of sushi. It's a very Jewish thing. They say it's a Japanese invention, but really it was two Jewish brothers that wanted to figure out how to make a restaurant without a kitchen. So they made sushi. Yeah. So the fish that goes to Crown Heights is only going if it's been chopped up into little pieces and put into a sushi platter. Otherwise, it's not a fish. It's not a fish anymore. It's not a fish. Imagine a leaf would say, I want to be free, but take me off the tree so I can go, fly around. Look at those leaves that are fluttering through the wind, so carefree. And I'm chained down to this tree. Once you take the leaf off the tree, yeah, maybe it's fluttering in the wind, but that's not liberty. That's not true freedom. It's the dead leaf that's now being blown aimlessly, mindlessly by wherever the wind takes it because it's dead. There's nowhere to go. And the same thing will be if a human limb says, take me off from the dictatorship of my brain. That mind doesn't stop thinking and telling me what to do. I want to be free. Chop me off the body. Okay, it doesn't work that way. And for a Jew, Torah and mitzvot are the ultimate lifestyle which allow a person to be aligned with their truest core and their truest chemistry and their truest design, the way God made us to be. Just like when you go to a nutritionist, and the nutritionist says, don't eat ice cream and don't eat cheesecake and don't eat French fries and don't eat whatever, because you a whole list, or if it's a really good, and then we can tell you. So you're a blood type O, so you shouldn't eat nightshades and you shouldn't eat carb because, right? My wife read all these books and they understand. So you're a type A, so for you, red meat is good. And for you, red meat is not good, right? So the nutritionist is trying to control you, trying to be your mother by telling you not to eat meat. Nutritionist is not trying to be your mother. Nutritionist is trying to tell you what your body is most receptive to, what your body resists, what your body has a harder time digesting, and what your body metabolism absorbs better. God is the ultimate nutritionist. God is the ultimate creator of mankind. And God understands us. God created us. He designed us. And so it is Hashem that gives us the diet, so to say. Knowing our blood type, Hashem gives us the diet so that our souls and our bodies can be aligned. I've said this example many times, but it's very, very powerful. Imagine you go into a zoo. Okay, you go into a zoo. And in the zoo, you see this tremendous lion. Joke just came to my head, but you see a lion. And you ask the lion, what do you want? So I want good food every day. I want to be able to eat a whole sheep, a whole lamb every day. What else do you want? I want to be safe. I want to be able to live with all my cubs and whatever, have no fear of predators, and get medical care if I need. So tell this lion, I'll give you everything you want on one condition. You got to live in the zoo. What would the lion say? No way. No way. The lion would rather live in the jungle, in the forest, where he'll have to fight for food, where there'll be predators, where there'll be dangers, where it might be killed, where it's not guaranteed to get food every day. Why would it do that? It can stay in the zoo. And the zoo can be guaranteed every single morning to get another lamb being fed to it. And if it ever gets a stomachache or something, the vet will take care of him. No obligations, no responsibilities. You can just lay there on that little, I don't know what they give them in the Lion Country Safari. There's a little like a jungle gym there. He can lie there in the shade like a king. And yet that's not what a lion is. That's not what a lion is. A lion is meant to be free. It's meant to roam the jungle and hunt for food and chase the food and catch the food. And that's when it reveals its nature. And by taking a lion and putting it into a zoo, even though you're feeding it, and even though you're so seemingly washing it and enjoying it and protecting it, what are you really doing? You're enslaving it and taking away all of its natural greatness. Say a story, talking about the animals in the zoo, they say a story about this little baby camel who asks its mother camel, says, Mama, tell me, why do we have such wide feet? So the mother camel says to the baby camel, you should know we have very, very wide feet because when we walk through the desert for days at a time, the sand is very, your feet can sink in the sand. So we have large, wide feet so we can walk on the sand without sinking in. Interesting. She says, tell me, Mom, why do these very, very big eyelashes? So the mom explains to the baby camel that when we walk through the desert, sometimes there's sandstorms. And the wind can blow sand in our eyes. So to protect our eyes from the sand, we have very, very big eyelashes to protect us from the sand. And then he asks the mother, tell me, why do we have such big humps on our back? So the mom explains to the little baby, she says, when we go through the desert for days at a time without water, we want any water to drink. So we store lots of water in our humps on our back. So we're able to go for days without drinking. Says, Mom, that's so interesting. We have these humps for the water and these eyelashes for the sand and these big wide feet for the sand. So if we're meant to walk through the deserts, what are we doing in the Bronx Zoo? And so this, my friends, is why the Torah says that the holiday of Passover is not a zman of chofesh. Chofesh is a day off. Day off where you stay in bed, and then you wake up at 11 o'clock and you stay in your pajamas and you play on your phone and I don't know what else you do on your day off. And you just look out the window, you watch some TV, you play on your phone some more. Next thing you know, it's time for dinner. Oh, I killed the day. It was a day off. Today I didn't turn on. You feel like, so good, look at me, I took the day off. And then what happens after the day off? You need a vacation from the vacation. And sometimes you feel like you have nothing, right? And so, this is the idea of Zman HaChofesh. Chofesh means no obligations. Cherus is a liberty that has to be with purpose. Has to be with purpose. I'll ask you a question. I'll ask you a question for you to think about for a second. And I'll save it for the end, maybe. I can tell you many people. I'll ask you this way. I can show you many people who have no obligations seemingly. They're retired. They have money in the bank. They have a 401k. They have, no obligations. And guess what? They're still anxious and they're still worried and they still feel, trapped by all these social expectations and inner turmoil. Why? Why? If you're off after 40 years of working, and people always think, I meet so many people that are convinced I'm going to retire soon. Oh, they're not going to be happy. I'm going to be off. And there's always that honeymoon period when they first retire and they don't have to get up in the morning and they can do all those hobbies and all those things that they thought they're going to take care of, and they can plant their garden and they can, do their home renovation project and I don't know, paint their garage or whatever. And then they have problems and they have stress. Because in Torah, cherus is not merely the absence of work, but it's the presence of meaning and of connection and of purpose. To give you an example, a real example, it's a little dangerous to give this example. I'm going to give it in because it's very, very powerful. So I was reading today about the history of Haiti. Okay? Haiti. Heard of the country called Haiti?
Yeah.
You know what's very, very interesting for us about the history of Haiti? Anyone know? Missing a paper, but it's okay. You know what the interesting of Haiti, the history of Haiti is? No one knows?
The slaves.
Mm-hmm. The first nation of slaves after the Jewish people to become, the Jewish people were in Egypt 3,400 years ago. And we were a nation of slaves that left slavery and became a free people. After we left slavery, it took another 3,000 years or so, maybe a little less, until there would again be a nation of slaves that would free themselves from slavery. The first nation to free themselves from slavery were the blacks of Haiti. Haiti was a French colony. It was a very, very profitable, wealthy colony because they had these tremendous sugar plantations. And they brought in half a million, whatever, slaves. 500,000 slaves were brought from Africa to work in the sugar and the coffee plantations of Haiti. And I was reading today for a while the story. I'm not going to get into all the details, but in 1804, on January 1st of 1804, it's a whole story. I'll go there before. There was a slave himself who was free by his very, very liberal master. His name was Toussaint Louverture. Anyone knows what I'm talking about? No? You guys don't know the history? You should read about it. Toussaint Louverture was actually a house slave whose master allowed him to read and educate himself. And he eventually became free. And he helped when the blacks started to revolt. This is like a few years of revolts from the end of the 1700s. The French, this is times of Napoleon. Napoleon, for all of his promises of emancipation in Europe, was a big believer in slavery of the blacks in Haiti. And he wanted to keep them as slaves, but there was revolution, there was rebellion. And one of the leaders of the revolution was this guy, Toussaint Louverture. He helped his master actually escape. His master was white. He was black, and they were killing all the white plantation owners, helped him escape. He was one of the leaders. He actually knew how to read, he knew how to write. He was educated. He was very, very selfless. And eventually, the whole story, again, is not relevant, all the details. He was eventually tricked by the French to come. They were going to make a peace treaty, an armistice, and they tricked him and they arrested him, and he ended up being tortured and dying in French imprisonment, in French captivity. But he was one of the main leaders of this revolution, and that was in 1803 that he was captured. But after him, the revolution continued, and in January 1st of 1804, the slaves of Haiti formally declared independence. The first nation after the Jews to declare freedom from tyranny and from slavery. Do you know how the story ends? How's Haiti doing today? Not good is being very kind. Not good is a very kind statement. All the plantations were destroyed. No, all the plantations, all the economic engine of Haiti. There was opportunity for tremendous wealth. It was a land that was producing tremendous produce. And there was a lucrative market for sugar and for coffee. There was a market. And the plantations were built. The farms were there. The fields were there. But no one wanted to work the fields. They're not going to work for somebody else.
Brian's in Gaza.
Yeah, well, no one wanted to work. No one wanted to do anything. And so the poverty of France became terrible. There was, for 12 years, there was a civil war. 1806, 1804. By 1806, there was already a civil war within Haiti itself, with the north and the south, with different kings, self-declared kings over different parts of Haiti. They ended up fighting against each other for 12 years of civil war. The country fell into complete shambles. There were other factors too. Many other European countries didn't want to recognize them and kind of give legitimacy to the nation of slaves freeing themselves from slavery. But the country fell apart, and they never, ever rebuilt. Poverty in Haiti is terrible. People live on $1 a day in Haiti. The life expectancy in Haiti is 50 years old. These are numbers now after the earthquake that was there a few years ago. It never recovered from that either. Except for Bill Clinton still fundraising money for it. But otherwise, I'm saying, but even before they suffered natural disasters, it was an extremely poor country. And why is that? Because on January 1st of 1804, the people of Haiti declared Chofesh. The people of Haiti declared emancipation and freedom from work. But what they didn't do is declare Chelos. They didn't declare liberty to build a nation. To build a nation of free people requires hard work. To be a free person requires effort. To be a free lion requires more work than being a lion in captivity being fed food every day. And being a free human being requires more work than being an American or a person on the payroll of someone else where you do whatever you're told, listen to whatever information that's fed to you, and follow like a blind sheep, being taken wherever you're told to go. Of course. And it's much easier to be a lion in the zoo with no problems, with no struggle for existence, with no struggle to find your food, and much easier to be an American, to be a person who doesn't work for freedom, who doesn't work to build something for themselves, but to do whatever you're told to do, and to follow whatever social norms you're told to follow, and to follow whatever peer pressures you're told to succumb to. To fight for freedom means you have to stand out from the crowd. It means you have to stand up for what you know is right, and that requires courage, and it requires bravery, and it requires determination, it requires effort. It requires not being lazy and giving into whatever is easiest. It requires a liberty that comes from being engraved, for being committed to something greater than yourself. And the people of Haiti, it's a delicate example, but I'm going to say it because it's as black and white as it's so clear. They fought bravely for freedom, and all they fought for was chofesh. They fought for freedom of a permanent day off. Before we worked in the plantations producing sugar for the white masters that beat us, and that was terrible. And they rightfully fought for freedom. But then once they got their freedom, they stopped working. So we're not going to work in the plantation. To them, the freedom was about not working. Instead of recognizing that freedom is about not working for someone else, they didn't realize that freedom means to yes work. You can't be free by not working. You can't be free if you're not engraved to something. You can't be alive if you're a leaf fluttering in the wind, not attached to a tree. And you can't be a free fish if you're out of the water. And you can't be a free Jew if you're not connected and engraved in the truth and the direction and the guidance and the clarity of Torah and mitzvot. And that's why Passover, the holiday of freedom, is only half of the story. The story of Pesach is only the beginning of a much longer holiday. You know when the holiday of Pesach really ends? When does the holiday of Pesach really end? So what's the next holiday after Pesach? Shavuos. Shavuos. Now, do you know what the word Shavuos means? Weeks. Do you know that in the Torah, there is no name for the holiday of Shavuos. In the Torah, what's the biblical name for the holiday of Shavuos? Very popular tonight. What's the biblical name for the holiday of Shavuos? No, so the rabbis, just like the rabbis coined the phrase for Passover, Zman Cheruteinu, the time of our liberation. So in the prayer book where we pray on Shavuot, we say, as you're saying correctly, Zman Matan Torateinu, the time that God gave us the Torah. So in the prayer book, that's how the rabbis coined the name of the holiday. But in the Bible, if you look in the Bible, Passover is called Chag HaMatzot, the holiday of the matzah. And what is the holiday of Shavuos? You know what it's called in the Torah? The 50th day. Right? That's what it's called. The 50th day. We call it Shavuot because it's the end of the counting of 7 Shavuot, 7 weeks. Shavu'an singular is week singular. Shavuot is plural weeks. So Shavuot is the culmination of 7 complete weeks. That's what the word means. It's not a biblical name. In the Torah, the holiday is on the 50th day, and I should have put this into the text as well, but that's what it says. And if you remember, you remember. Torah tells you on the 50th day, you'll celebrate the holiday. In fact, the holiday of Shavuos could be on the 5th day of Sivan, on the 6th day of Sivan, on the 7th day of Sivan. Today we have a fixed calendar, so we know every year what day it's going to be. But in the times of the temple, when they had witnesses that would come say when the new moon is, right? In the times of the temple, there was no fixed calendar. Every month, Rosh Chodesh would be when witnesses would come to the temple, to the court, and say, we saw the new moon, and they give testimony, and we check it, and yes, indeed, they saw the new moon. That's when the new month would begin. Which means that the holiday of Shavuot, the holiday when we would celebrate the giving of the Torah in temple times, was not always on the day that the Torah was given. It was always on the 50th day after Passover. But if you count 50 days from Passover, 50 days from Passover could be on the 5th day of the month of Sivan, depending if the month of Nisan and the month of Iyar had 30 days or 29 days. Right? Every month is 29 and a half days. The cycle of the moon circling the earth is 29 and a half days. So some months are 29 days and some months are 30 days. So theoretically, the celebration of Shavuot in the times of the temple could have been not on the day, on the calendar that we got the Torah. Because as far as the Bible is concerned, Shavuos is not a holiday of its own. Shavuos is the second half of Pesach. The exodus from Egypt was only the freedom from obligations to allow us to become who we are meant to be. Understand? That's the very name. The name is weeks. We don't call it in the Torah the holiday of the giving of the Torah. It's called the holiday of the weeks. That's what we call it. Because that's all it is. It's a culmination of a completion. Starts at Passover, continues for 49 days of the Omer, and finishes, that whole holiday finishes on the day that happens to be when God gave us the Torah. Which is why, if you look at your sheets, when God, the very, very, very first time that God came to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Moses, and said, Moses, where did he come to him first? At the burning bush. And he says, Moses, I've heard the cry of the people. This is in chapter 3 of the book of Exodus. He says, I've heard the cries of the people, and their cry is coming to me, etc. So the very beginning of the conversation. The beginning of the chapter is, he saw the bush burning. So how could it be burning and not be consumed? He came, God said, take off your shoes. And then God says to Moshe, I've heard the cries of the people. So now come, and I will send you to Pharaoh and take my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. So Moses says to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? That I should take the children of Israel out of Egypt. There's two questions. Who am I? I don't have the ability to negotiate with the superpower of the world, with Pharaoh, the king of the most mighty country of the time. And number two, what is the merit that I should take the children of Israel out of Egypt? Why would they be worthy of being saved, miraculously taken out of slavery? So God answers the first question first, and then he answers the second. What does God say? Verse number 12, God says to Moshe, Don't be afraid. You're asking, who are you to go to Pharaoh? You should know I will be with you. And this, the burning bush, the bush is burning but not being consumed, is the sign that it is I who sent you. Meaning the fact that you're going to go, you won't be damaged. Nothing will happen to you. Now, the second question, you want to know, why would I take the children of Israel out of Egypt? Here's the words I want you to pay attention to. You should know that when you take the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain. God is saying to Moses at the very, very, very beginning of the entire Exodus story, before the plagues, before the blood, before the staff turning into a snake, before any of it, the first thing that God says to Moses, you should know that this mountain where you are right now, where you see a burning bush, this is not a one-time thing. You happen to see a burning bush on this mountaintop. You should know you're going to come back into this desert with the Jews, and when you come, you will come to take the Jews to worship me on this mountain. Meaning, the entire purpose of the Exodus is not for the sake of an Exodus in and of itself. The sake of liberation is not just to not work. The sake of liberation is to serve God, to be engraved onto the tablets, to be given a tremendous sense of clarity and identity, that no matter where you live, no matter when you live, you can live anywhere in the world, at any time in history, you have clarity, you're engraved, you have an identity as a Torah observant Jew, guided and directed by the never-changing engraving of the words of the Torah. It will be with you for your entire life, forever, wherever, anywhere. Stamp of approval. And so in society, we look at freedom as what? Nothing. I have no obligations, no commitments, no responsibilities. And yet the Jews that were celebrating Pesach are celebrating Zman Cherutenu, a time of freedom to be who we are really meant to be. Who is that? Who we are engraved to be. Which, by the way, is very much connected to the name that we give the holiday of Pesach. What is Pesach? Passover. Passover. It's called Passover. Now, this is not the name that God gives. And I'm not talking about the name God gives. God gives the name of matzah because that's what we did for God. That we did for God. We eat the matzah that God told us to eat going into the desert. But when we talk about the holiday, so where are you going for Pesach, right? What's your Pesach plans? What's your Passover plans? We refer to the holidays when God passed over. What is Passover? Transcendence. Breaking free from limitations. The way, my friends, to be truly free and to transcend any limitation is by being truly engraved. When you are engraved, when you have an unshakable clarity and sense of identity, that's when you can truly be free. That's when you can truly transcend, when you can truly be happy. People tell me, so this last week, and I was blessed to celebrate my son's bar mitzvah. So many people told me, I wish I could take a picture of how happy you were on Shabbat, right? Shabbat, my son read the Torah, there was pure nachas. The happiness was absolute. It was pure. It wasn't the happiness that came from l'chaim or from money or from I don't know what. It was the deepest happiness that came from inside, from who I am and who seeing my son continue that. That's being engraved. That's seeing your engraving continue. And that is the greatest freedom, the greatest Pesach, the greatest transcendence. And so I have a question for you. This is the question we need to all ask ourselves. I'll say one more thing before I get to the closing question. So the Torah seems like a chain, seems like a limitation, seems like a burden. Like the rabbis tell us, put fences around the Torah, right? Put fences around the Torah. So siyag the Torah. Fences. The Torah is all about limitations. Don't do this. Don't look there. Don't touch that person. Don't, so many rules, right? Seemingly rules are a problem. So I heard a great example. Heard a great example from Jacobson. Then imagine you tell kids they can go play football. Football is a lot of fun, right? What if you tell them to go play on the roof? Hopefully normal, on the roof. Can you enjoy a game of football on the roof? No, because you're always afraid to throw too far, you're going to run, to push someone. You're constantly afraid of falling. The moment the roof is fenced, now you can enjoy. The fence around the roof doesn't limit your ability to have fun. The fence around the roof allows you to run without fear of falling. The fence doesn't limit the space that you can play in. The fence allows you to maximize the space that you have. The fence of Torah doesn't limit what a Jew can do. The fence of Torah allows us to maximize the potential and the gift that we already have. God gave us all gifts. He gave us tremendous abilities, tremendous opportunity to lead a meaningful, purposeful existence. In order to maximize in that, you need to know the limits. You need to know, here's where I can run to, here's where I can't run. And the moment you don't have to always worry about where am I running to, is the moment you can truly be free. The moment you can truly be free. So here's a question. I want you to walk away with this question to think about as you go into Pesach. Pesach is a time of liberation. Pesach is a time not only that 3,400 years ago, our great-great-great-great-grandfathers left Egypt, and they were slaves that were freed. Pesach is a time, as we said, b'chol dar v'dar, in every generation, and every single day, we ourselves need to find freedom. But freedom doesn't mean a day off. Freedom means a day engraved. Engraved. Charut al haluchot, engraved on the tablets. To have obligations and commitments and responsibilities in what God wants us to have. And so there's two parts. There's letting go of the slavery of social pressures, of peer pressure, what my friends say, what does society expect of me, how does society expect me to dress, how does society expect me to think about ABC, how do my friends think that I should think, right? That's a slavery. What do my friends think I did have a mitzvah? What do my friends think that I need to do to make a nice bar mitzvah? What's the expectation? And people, wonderful people, walk around with all of this pressure and anxiety because of whatever, their boss, their friends, their social pressures, whatever the Facebook tells them, the media tells them, and they're walking around feeling all these, obligations. So the first thing is the exodus from Egypt. The exodus to not feel encumbered by social pressures. But just that alone is not enough. There has to be an engraving. There has to be a commitment to Torah. And if you ask yourself this question and you think about it, you'll find, I think, how true this is. Do you feel most free when you have no responsibilities? Or do you feel most free and most fulfilled when you're engaged in something meaningful? At the end of the day, when you did a whole day off, or after a whole day of working for something that meant something very important to you. Of course. That's the greatest liberation. The greatest liberation is being able to do what I love. And so this is what Pesach means for us. To find where we, in some ways, are still living in enslavement, where we allow others to be our masters, whether it's financial masters, psychological masters, masters in our mindset, masters in the way we eat, masters in the way we dress, masters in the way we behave, masters in the things that we do for, fun. And then to remember that true freedom, true fulfillment, true happiness comes not from nothingness, not from emancipation from Napoleon. True freedom, true happiness, true fulfillment comes from being tied down to a sense of purpose and meaning. And that, my friends, is what Pesach means today in 2025. Okay? That's the story, my friends. Because we got to find ourselves what pressure we need to remove and what commit. Two things. What pressures to remove and what commitments to take. Let me say that in simple English again. If I had to take the whole class into one sentence, going to Pesach, what one social pressure could we take off of ourselves? And what commitment to the tablets of God could we engrave upon ourselves? That, my friends, is a question. That, my friends, is a question of Passover. Okay? You got it? Ooh, Randy's okay, thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Gil. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Michael. Yeah.
Okay, out of this class, I can't really articulate anything at the Seder from what I learned until you just said that.
I articulated that last line. Can I repeat that last line?
Yes.
Okay, so we need to find one social pressure or anxiety. I'm repeating the summary of the class. To find one social pressure or one anxiety of someone else that we need to let go of society, the person. One social pressure. What? Someone else. It could be any kind of someone else. There's two parts to the Passover. There's the Exodus, and then there's the Cherut, the engraved, the liberation. So the Exodus is a chofesh, is to be able to find one in our lives, to make it practical, find one social pressure, one anxiety, one thing we do because others tell us this is what they think we should do. To let go of that.
We do because others tell us.
Correct. And then to find one commitment that we can engrave from the tablets of God that we can engrave upon ourselves.
What one commitment of Torah can we
From the tablets of God, yeah, that we can commit to engrave, to give us a true identity. Because true freedom comes from true identity. Thank you, Art. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Thalia. Thank you, Agud Chodesh. God willing, next week we'll continue. Thank you, Mindy. I'm glad you enjoyed. Thank you, Michael. We missed you in person, but I'm glad that you enjoyed. Hope Kim is feeling better. We missed her. Thank you, Steve. Steve, if you're still watching, why did the skeleton not go to battle? It had no guts. Okay. Yeah, I know. That's for Steve. I don't know if it's still on. Okay, anyway. Great lesson. Thank you, Gail. I'm glad I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, finish your pantry. Corinne, Laila Tov, Mr. Lester tonight. Good night, Lori, Laila Tov. Good night, Art. Thank you all. God bless you all. Next week, same time, same place. Obviously, the week after that, there won't be class, it'll be Passover. Yeah, there'll be Passover. Next week, there will be class, B'ezrat Hashem. If you help tomorrow with the packing for the matzahs after Torah and tea, it would be great. Okay.